So I've been working on this motor dyno project for a long time now. I've logged over 1,200 test logs during the designing and calibration and setup of what I've come together so far, but I'm finally to a point where I feel good about starting to do some actual tests on it. And so y'all can look forward to a whole bunch of that coming up. I've already run about 7 motors from my my testing catalog, including some that I actually haven't tested and shown on the channel so far yet, though it'll probably still be a couple weeks before any of the official motor tests start to get posted up. Due to how this is all coming together, I'm actually needing to change the way that I do prop tests, and so also having to go back through and retest a bunch of old props so that I can use that data along with this motor dyno in hopefully a more interesting way. But as long as I can continue to get sneak some time in between my crazy work schedule right now, there is some other interesting stuff that we'll be able to look at in the next couple weeks, hopefully. But just to kind of tease it, this is some of the sort of data and what we'll be looking at, and I'll do a full video on how to interpret these charts and what my test results will actually all mean in the future. But just a short kind of tease at what sort of information we're going to be able to tell from it. This is a test of a particular motor, and you can see the different bands of efficiency over a wide range of torque values. So this shows us the motor performance for both very low, lightly loaded props and incredibly heavily loaded props as well. And we can see all of that from this one chart. So we can, for instance, overlay the torque curve for a particular prop over it and see exactly where we're going to fall in the power band of the motor. So this should make it really nice to see, you know, if we're too overpropped for a motor or too underpropped for a particular motor as well. Here are some of the more raw results just from a slightly different motor. With all of this information combined with the torque curve of the prop, even though I have not actually run this propeller on this motor, I can tell you that at 90% throttle, we're going to be making about 280, 290 grams of thrust, and it's going to take about 141 watts to do it. So hopefully this is going to open up a much larger volume of data that we can look at without having to test hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of combinations, as I've had to do so far anytime I've done broader testing on sets of motors. And if, for instance, you are one that believes that static testing is useless, and but do believe that the 30% lower amp draw in the air, I can, for instance, say right here, this is of course the torque curve of the prop is on a static test, and I can tell you that right about there, right about here is 30% lower amp draw. So we can potentially chart this band, band of performance for every single throttle value here, and you can have an expected kind of range of performance anywhere from static thrust all the way down to dynamic flight, and see where this range of performance is going to fall in the efficiency of the motor as well. So there's a whole lot of information that we can pull out of these dyno charts. No marketing, no fluff, just actual straight up raw numbers, and as usual you can pull your own conclusions from what you see. I'm also hoping to be able to take some of this information and roll this back into the prop tests, because I'm calculating the torque curve of the prop. I think one of the challenges in looking at how we traditionally have tested props has been you've got two different sources of efficiency. You have the torque efficiency of the motor, and then you have the thrust efficiency of the prop. So as you spin a prop faster and faster, it's going to require more torque, and the inefficiencies, all of the drag and tip vortices and all of that stuff is going to increase the torque requirement while not increasing the thrust. So when you're looking at straight up thrust tests on a motor for efficiency, you're seeing a composite of both those two elements. And by looking at the torque efficiency of a prop, by looking at the amount of thrust that it gives you for a given torque, we should really be able to isolate the efficiency of the prop from the efficiency of the motor completely. So hopefully it should help us kind of isolate some of this information so it's a little more broadly applicable and comparable between different props without having to worry about quite so many of the variables that were done while the prop was originally tested. So it's been a long time coming, but it's all the work is on the way. I'm still working on some of the tool chains. This is an incredibly laborious process to go through. I have to manually move a lot of this data around to get these sort of charts lined up. But in the first couple weeks of the new year, we should start seeing a lot more results. So look forward to that.